Hi folks, in this video we're going to be looking at the brand new Orks Combat Patrol for Warhammer 40,000. As you can see, it is a serious chunker of a box, barely fitting in on my screen. So let's have a look, see what we get in the box. Let's see how controversial these new boys are, and without any further ado, let's cue the music. Right, so Orks Combat Patrol, 25 miniatures, seriously chunky box. Let's not waste time on the outside, let's have a look at the goodies on the inside. So the big exciting thing about this new box is the Deathcopters. That's the really exciting bit. There we go, just empty out the box. So, first thing we have is an instruction manual. Not very exciting, but nice to have it. As with all Games Workshop kits that have been released in the last few years, everything that we see here is fully CAD designed, fully CAD instructions as well. Yellow glue markings and the pieces that are new to editions being in blue. Nice to see a base size diagram down here, and this is a one-to-one as well, so these are the size of the base, so you can line stuff up if you're not sure which of the various ones they are. Nice for the 50 and the 60, especially if you're new. And a nice array of the sprue layouts up here. Unfortunately it doesn't say, oh it does, it says you get 2 of the B. So it looks like the Ork kit is 2 sprues and then you times that by 2 to make up the kit. And you've got your Death Dread and your Deathcopters. Right, so flicking through here, looks fairly straightforward. Let's have a look at this boss knob over here. That's the question. So, left arm is swappable, the right arm is swappable, and the head, the jawline, and the back banner are optional. So, I guess if you wanted to, you could put a slugger in one hand, get a spare knife off the commando kit, stick it at his waist, and then you could just have him as a boy with slugger and chopper and not have the boss pole on him, and use the head without the horns, I guess, maybe. He does look like he's a fair bit bigger, so it does look like they might be forcing you down a knob, but if you have a slugger and a chopper, especially if he's not got a power claw, you could probably get away with him just being a standard boy. So, yeah, all of these boys are ×2, so you are getting duplicate poses on the boys kit. And they do appear to be monopose boys as well, especially looking down here. Body, head, the left arm already attached. And yeah, stick a right arm on it, stick a right arm in it, sticking a right arm on it. But the real intriguing one is the shooters, because it seems that there are 1, 2... There are 2 shooters in this kit, but interestingly, neither of the bodies... one body, the arms are completely separate, it looks like, and the other one of the arms is attached to the head. So you could potentially do some tweaking to try and make this a slugger and a chopper. But yeah, but if you're not comfortable with kit bashing, it does look like you are going to be forced into making a boss knob, a heavy weapon. It looks like there's an either or option on the heavy weapon, 2 shooters, and the rest being sluggers and choppers, which is a bit of a shame, especially as Orks tend to go in for one of the other, and in blobs of 20 or 30. So it would be very strange having yourself a blob of 30 and having to buy 3 kits, throwing out the shooters, throwing out the knobs, just to get yourself all those loaders and choppers. So we'll have a look at the sprues, but that might be where we're going with this. So yeah, there's your 20 blob. Interestingly enough, the picture shown at the end doesn't have an obvious knob on this artwork. So bringing up 20 blobs might not be the end of the world. There you go, yeah. There's a 20 blob here, no knob. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4 shooters, 2 heavy weapons. So you could still have a knob and 15 slugger and chopper. So that's not too bad. I mean, it's not great, monopose and forcing you into a few shooters, but might be able to tweak that with some converting. Having a look at the Deathcopters. These look really similar in how the really old Assault on Blackreach starter set copters went together, whether they're a left side or right side, the head, the propellers. So they do look like they are very, as well as aesthetically, very similar to the old kits. They do look structurally very similar as well. Actually, I think I've got all the old kits on hand. Yeah, this is one of the old Deathcopter kits. I don't know how well you can see from this was painted, but they were, again, a head was separate, and the arms were separate, and they were a left side, a right side, and the propellers were 2 pieces down the middle. So yeah, very similar to how these all went together. I wonder if they're any bigger. It'd be nice if we can see a size comparison. Let's have him fly off over there like a proper orc. They have gone to oval bases from round bases. I want to have a look at the sprue, because they are seeming to force you to doing these weird connection pieces. Bits of scenery, bits of trees. Don't like that. Would have preferred a straight flying stand. But that's what we get, so we're going to have to live with it. It doesn't look like it's the end of the world to convert that into a flying stand either. I'll just need a little bit of drilling, especially if we're not using this bit. So the real question is the knob. So the knob, one of the options in the codex, is a paid points upgrade for a big bomb and a custom mega blaster, and it seems that the kit is forcing you to make that. So if you're playing WYSIWYG, so what you see is what you get, it does look like you are going to be forced into building the big bomb and the custom mega blaster on the knob. I mean, it's 85 points, and you probably should pay it, because the custom mega blaster is great for 5 points. Especially, say, if you're playing Evil Sons, you run loads of these, and having one model in the unit where you can assault and shoot is still nice. Here 3, and then we have the classic Death Trip kit. This is a great kit. I mean, it's getting on a bit, but it's got options. It's got faceplate options. It's got weapon options. Let me see here. Different jaw options, panel options, lenses options. They got face options. The only downside is it's kind of a bit squat. It's kind of like the old Space Marine Dreadnought, where it doesn't really have knees. It's kind of fixed pose. You can't pose it running or bracing or anything like that. It is kind of stock. And I really do wish that the Death Dread came on a bigger base. It seems to be from the bygone era where all Dreadnoughts came on 60mm bases, but the Dreadnought's a little big. He does look a bit squat on the 60. But you can see here we've got arrays of custom Mega Blasters, missile launchers, big shooters, Scorchers. The Scorcher might actually be worth taking now, but these are kind of known as being monstrous melee units that are really quite tough. So, and Orks are not known for their shooting, so melee options are always seem to be the way to go, especially as the melee has one profile, so it may look like saws and claws and stuff like this. They don't have different profiles anymore, they all go under the one attack, so it's just less faffing about. And if a few armor panels, bits and bobs. And then you have the usual stat profiles. I really don't like these compared to the old ones. They don't really tell people what this is. I mean, if you're new, how do you know what the difference between the fist and the skull is? It's not exactly very clear. So, here we go. Stat profiles for these. They have the same for the boys, the Deathcopters, and the Death Dread. So, instructions aside, let's see what plastic we get in the box. So, first thing out the bag is 20, yes, 20 32mm bases. Interestingly, these are the standard since the 9th edition pre-order set, before the start set, when the new Primaris and the new Necrons released, where they've got the hex slot in the base. So these boys might have pegs on their feet. Interesting. First up is the first sprue from the Death Dread. They've got sides of the Death Dread, the back, looks like the engine, left leg, right leg. You see, these are a bit kind of monoposy. Does have a claw, some form of rocket launcher, 2 custom Mega Blasters. Great if you're playing Death Skulls with your rerolls. If you want to make a proper full shooty dread and a full melee dread, buy 2 of these boxes. Get 2 Death Dreads, kit one out with 4 custom Mega Blasters, kit the other one out with 4 claws, and just go have one that just sits on your back objectives and shoots things. They're basically plasma cannons. And then have another thing that just wrecks things in close combat. And then we have the other, let's bring this down to 85. We have another sprue. There's a claw. There's an arm. There's like a couple of big shooters. Boss pole. It's a really cool faceplate. I do quite like this faceplate. There's some extra bits of gubbins and some armor panels. More armor panels, teeth, shoulders, arms, another rocket launcher, 1 Scorcher, the saw. So yeah, weapons in this kit, it seems that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 claws, so you can go full melee out the box. 1 Scorcher. Yeah, so there's 1 Scorcher here, 2 rocket launchers, 1 here and 1 here, 2 custom Mega Blasters and 2 big shooters. So the Scorcher is the only one that you get 1 range weapon of, it seems. I guess it makes sense. They're not particularly great. They're better than they were, but it's not the sort of thing you want to get your model out with lots of. But yeah, it's a standard Death Dread. It's been the same model since, oh, I don't know, is there a marking on here? There you go, 2009. So yeah, it's about, what's that, 12 years, something like that. So yeah, it's kind of an old kit, but still looks great. Next up, we have a Deathcopter sprue. Now this looks like we have a full Deathcopter per sprue. So let's start with the sides. So have a left side. Really nice detail Very reminiscent of the Death Dread. It's nice to tie it in here with the engine and the exhausts. Not pre-drilled though, shame. Nice body detailing. Looks very hunched, very looks like the old Ork boy. Yeah, there's the missiles. Look at that. They're a fair bit bigger than the old ones. I don't know how well you can see that. There we go. There's one side by side. They got the scale increase. Both the boy's about the same size, but the Deathcopter around him is much bigger. The runners are longer, the missiles are beefier, the engine's bigger and more detailed. Still very orky, still very reminiscent, but they very much got a grow up kind of affair. So these are the nose panels, propeller, really nice detail of the extra gubbins stuck together. This side. That looks very easy to cut off if you don't like the scenery that Games Workshop has done for these. And imagine that once you had that glued together and that glued together, you'd have a nice space if you wanted to drill and put a clear acrylic rod. Editing Jamie, put in a link to the GW website, show them off if they have them starting. So, let's have a look. Here's the head join is interesting. There's a peg. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a peg there. And there's a hole in the back of his head. Now these look, he says. Alright, this is a head from the Commandos kit. And they look the same shape on the back. So if you cut that peg off, I imagine it wouldn't take much to attach one of the new Commandos heads onto the neck if you've got multiple of these to make them different. But the arms, it says, they do seem to have pegs as well, and they are of the flat shoulder joint variety that we saw in the old boys kit. So if you don't like this chopper, it says here's a spare knife from the Commandos kit. As you can see, they've got more wibbly wobbly sculpted to fit in with the muscles. They're not flat like the old boys kit was, so these probably wouldn't line up too nicely without green stuff. But if you've got bits and bobs lying around from the old Orks boys kits where they had the flat shoulders, these would swap nicely. But I don't see any harm if you've just got the first three to building them as they are, unless you really don't like this hook chopper. The second two come on a big A4 sprue. Let's start again. Once again, this is an entire Deathcopter on a single sprue. And just like the previous one, the arms and the head are on pins. With all these models that have pins, I really do recommend trimming a very little bit of these sticky out pins off, because if you leave the full pin, they never sit flush properly. So I'd always recommend cutting the pins a little short. They're designed to sort of be push fit, but they don't really want to be push fit. I really do quite like these little squigs. There's two little sort of like slug squigs sort of thing. Maybe squig mines? Just sort of start at the base in the scenery here. The tyre from a shock jumper dragster. And again, a bit of signage and terrain. Yeah, they're They're okay. They're nicely detailed, especially this bit of wood. It's got lovely grain cast into it. But I just feel they're really very strange ways of holding up a flying vehicle. Then we have the final Deathcopter Sprue. I mean, these have gone nicely on, but these are very much a easy to build, push fit model. Yeah. None of these really scream this is a squad leader outside of the weaponry we saw for the first one for the big bomb. Yeah, nicely modelled. Stick bomb, again, flat arm. Looks very similar size-wise to the Old Boys kit as well. That might be one of the reasons they're still leaving the Old Boys kit on sale for interchangeable arms on the Deathcopter. That'd be something, wouldn't it? Yeah, nice kit. Definitely a size grow up over these. Similar levels of details to these kits, but they've just been brought up to a new 40k scale, which is more of a 32mm game now than the 28 that it used to be. So yeah, that's the Deathcopters. Next up, we have the new Mega Boss. Now this is the first model in this box that feels like old Games Workshop. There's huge amounts of empty space on this sprue. It does feel like they've been forced to put it onto two of these sort of small character sprues, but it's not had enough bits to warrant two full ones, so they've had to space it out hugely. The big highlight though is this huge chopper. So it is a really lovely thing. It's very reminiscent, I don't know if I have one to hand, but it's very reminiscent of the Beast Snagger choppers with the blade on the back and the two wheels on the front. It does feel like a Beast Snagger chopper rather than the old chain choppers that the boys have. So the armor plates look nice. Not sure where these are going. This is back. It's definitely very, the design wise has taken a lot of cues from the Meganob's kit, but this is much bigger than Meganob. He will stand out on the table next to Meganob. So if you've got like a big mech or you've converted one of your old Meganobs, he does look like he's going to stand taller. He's a lot more leg showing. The Meganobs seem very squat. I don't have one to hand, but they are. But there's a lot more skin visible and cloth visible outside the armor. It does feel like this is more like an orc who's had bits of armor strapped to him, rather than an orc inside a suit, which the Meganob's kit feels like. The Gretchen seems to be interesting. So it does seem that the Gretchen, although the head is cast onto the big shooter, the neck joint and the socket inside the head are the same as the standard Gretchen. So if you really don't like this head, you could cut that head off the big shooter, clip it off there, and you could fit a standard Gretchen head onto that. Especially if you want to run multiple of these. That looks like that Gretchen, you could swap his head out. But that's the top plate. If the Gretchen stood on this, that makes nice sense, because he's got ammo strapped to his waist. And then here's his head here. So because his tongue is moulded in, it is look like you will have to use this head on him, and he is sort of got the neck sculpted to look in a certain direction. So he will be a monopose kit. There's no, and the way that his arms are put together, they're not joining at the shoulders, the elbows, or the wrists. He is going to be a single monopose character kit. That's not surprising. Lots of the characters, especially the high detail ones, tend to be monopose anyway. I'd rather a high detailed monopose character than one that's lesser on the detail and has a few options. And it doesn't look like there's too much detail in the way, so you could use the Mega Knobs kit to add a few bits of extra paneling detail and stuff should you wish. So that's our war boss. The final kit in here, oh boy, is the Ork Boys kit. There are two of these, and both of these are exactly the same. So you're going to have two sets of duplicates. So this is going to be the real kicker. How monopose is this kit? Right, let's break this down. Let's have a look at how these arms join. So the big one I want to have a look at for these is these shooters. So this shooter on here, yeah, I have a feeling that without green stuff you are not gonna have interchangeable arms on these. Some of these pistol arms do look like they might be able to be interchangeable with the commando arms. They look similar, they don't look identical. All the commando arms are slightly different at the shoulder. So the sluggers and choppers for the commandos, if you don't build any special weapons, you've got enough of these knives and pistols to make 10. Now, it does look like with some cutting of pins, maybe a little bit of green stuff, you might be able to add the spare bits of sluggers and choppers from the commandos kit. But just looking at the way, especially this shooter here, this arm here, it's got a very weird join here. There's a very weird shape here in the body, so that's good. Without green stuff, that has to be a shooter. There you go, and that's his other arm, which again has a very weird shape and his head's molded into it. So he is going to have to be a shooter boy. Let's see if we can see the other one. So this is the other one that's a shooter. So that's his left arm. Oh no, there's another one here as well. So how many shooters are in this kit then? So we've got 1, 2, 3 over on here. And the boss knob, the pole, is optional. So you don't, and he's got an array of weapons as well. So the boss knob, yes, he'll have his jacket open, but he doesn't look hugely bigger than the rest. He's a little, but not massively. If he had a slugger and a chopper and you put a head on him, especially as you could. It's one of my commando heads. You could sort of, with a bit of green stuff, add one of the commando heads in there, fill in that gap with green stuff and change him up a bit. Might be able to sell him as a boy, but it does look, yeah, the way that these shooters are coming in with this armor panel on here, looks like the shooters are fixed. So yeah, you're going to have a squad of 10, you're going to have 1 mob, 1 special weapon, 3 shooters and 5 sluggers and choppers. So when this is fully put together, you're going to have 10 sluggers and choppers, 6 shooters, 2 heavy weapons, and then either 2 knobs or 1 knob and a slugger and chopper. These are looking at very monopose, kind of on the difficult side to convert. Not impossible, but yeah, these are nowhere near as flexible. I was hoping that more of these arms would be interchangeable with, and heads would be interchangeable with the Commandos kit, especially as they made this whole point with these shapes of arms and this neck joint which the Beast Snagger boys and the Commandos are fully compatible. It's just a real shame that the boys kit, the Commandos and the Beast Snaggers, are not interchangeable. So, outside of our bases, left in the box, we have one of the new Ork transfer sheets. I think these are really nice transfer sheets. So we've got our major clans, we've got our Goths, we've got Evil Suns, Blood Axes, Bad Moons, Death Skulls, Freebooters, and Snake Bites. We've got some few generic Ork glyphs and some checker patterns. Though I will say it'd be nice if these checker patterns would be a bit bigger, especially when vehicles are involved. For my Evil Suns, I have been using the checker patterns out of the Space Marine transfers because they're more like this size, but in yellow, which fits the Evil Suns better. But otherwise, it's nice to have a transfer sheet. We haven't had an Ork transfer sheet since the 90s, so it's nice to see a proper one actually shipped with it, because it's nice to give shoulder pads and vehicles and armor panels a bit of clan iconography and details. But then it's Orks, people tend to paint them whatever colour they want and play whatever clan they want, because that's just sort of how Orks roll. So, in summary, that is the Ork Combat Patrol. There's a lot of models in there. All of them are really nice. The boys kit is really nice, although very limited in how it's put together. The Mega Boss is a really nice kit. It seems really highly detailed. Monopose character kit, which is absolutely fine, absolutely expected. Really nice addition, and it's a brand new model that we've never had before. Finally, we don't have to convert a Mega Boss anymore. It's really nice. The Deathcopter is a really nice kit. Real nice homage to little old choppers from the past, with a nice size upgrade. Looks like they've got some kit bash potential for arms and heads with Commandos, Beast Snaggers, and the old boys kit, which is still on sale. And then the Death Dread is the classic Death Dread. It's always a great kit. It's always good fun to build and paint. So yeah, that is the what's inside the box of the Orks Patrol. Now, is it worth the money? So retail wise, this is £85, and is it a good place to start your army? Yes, brilliant place to start your army for Orks. You've got yourself a boss, you've got yourself either a big blob of 20 boys or 2 squads of 10, you've got a heavy support unit, and you've got fast attack. Deathcopters became brilliant in the new codex. Boys are always worth having. This is definitely a good start for Goths. This is definitely a good start for Evil Suns, especially with those Deathcopters. And the Death Dread basically goes well with Death Skulls and Bad Moons as well. So it doesn't matter what clan you want to play, you're definitely going to find units of use in here. And they're all really nice sculpts. I mean, as much as we hate as modelers for army-based systems on Horde armies all having the same models, they are dynamically posed and they do have enough details. So it's not like the olden days where you had spearmen and basically the arm went on and that was it, like the current Skaven kit is. You choose whether it has like a sword or a spear and that's it. So it's nice that there's lots of detail in the kits, and they should be great fun to paint, great fun to put together. So it is £85 retail. It's a very good start for playing Orks. Now Orks are a Horde army generally, unless you're going mechanised down the Evil Suns route. So unless you fancy a Greed Tide, I would only recommend buying one of these boxes. This isn't for me where I think as an Ork player, this isn't a instantly grab 3. Unless you're planning Green Tide, I wouldn't grab loads of these boxes. I'd grab one, pen it up, and see how you go, and see what you like with the vehicles, the dreads, or the Horde, and then decide. If you're going to go Green Tide, this is probably another good box to pick up, mainly because you've got those 20 boys and the Death Dread. But you may find that it's just a one and done. As per usual, I would recommend going and buying this from a discount retailer if you live in the UK. I'm not affiliated with any. I happen to like Whaling Games, but there's Element and there's a few others. You know, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's several like discount retailers in the UK. I believe overseas, if you're in America, Amazon have a slight discount as well. Funnily enough, Amazon isn't a great reliable place for discount 40k in the UK. We tend to have a lot of specialist shops for that. So yeah, really nice box set. Great start as a point for brand new players and for existing players who want to get their hands on as many new sculpts as they can. Just be aware that if you're a long-time player who love to kit bash their orcs, you may find that this box is a bit lackluster. So, if you've made it to this length of the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next time, folks. Take care now.